Okay, let's put our hands together for Katy Steinberg.
Good evening, friends. I'm Katy Steinberg. I have a Master's of Divinity from Columbia and from the University of Dubuque, and I'm here to talk to you today about the rise of the nuns. And no, I'm not talking about this kind of nun. Actually, the kind of nun I'm talking about are people who, when surveyed on a Pew Research study, when asked about religious affiliation, checked the box labeled nun. And these numbers are rising in these really high rates in an unexpected way. Now this is my family, circa, we'll call it 1987, somewhere around there. We were a good church-going family, like most people were back in those days, and many, many still are. Back in these days, we went to a church that looked a lot like this one. There were hymnals and a choir and an organ, and all of the traditional things that we expect in a church, in a place where many people are still having really meaningful experiences on Sunday mornings. But here's another place people are on Sunday mornings. Yeah, I hear you. I can still see you. You know that, right? On Sunday mornings, and might they still be having really meaningful experiences in this location? Might God be present, even at the beach? Now, this feels like a new thing for people. It feels like this is a new phenomenon that's never happened before. But the reality is that there's this cycle that happens every few hundred years in religious culture, and things change. It started with this guy, Constantine. For the first time in his reign around the year 300, the Christian religion was made legal. Up until that time, there was mass persecution for even confessing that you might be a Christian, or many other religions at the time also. It was about 500 years later, give or take, that there was the Great Schism. Now, this was the first time that Christianity split in a major way. People were disagreeing over the divinity of Christ, over how you should worship, where you should worship, the words you should say, each of these things. There was another major split. Fast forward about 500 more years, and we have the Reformation. This is the beginning of Protestantism. And it was the time when the big sector of the church broke off from the Catholic Church, again, over issues of how they were worshiping, how things were being done, concerns about corruption within the church. So what's next? Here we are, almost exactly 500 years after the Reformation. What's next? What does religious culture, what does religion have for us next in this cycle that continues to repeat itself over time? Well, it's still this, I'll tell you that. It's still people going to churches on Sunday morning to connect with the divine and each other in meaningful ways and having meaningful, worshipful experiences. But there's a whole other group of people, these folks, for whom they're open to other ways, other places of finding God, other opportunities for engaging with the divine and each other, connecting in meaningful ways at pubs and beaches and other exciting places. So what's next? Innovation is what's next. New and exciting ways of doing faith and life together, of doing worship on a beach or in a park or in a labyrinth or in a bar, and really exploring these things together. And honestly, it's not that different from what this guy and his followers did. He wasn't really in a building very much. He spent a lot of his time out wandering the countryside, on hillsides, eating with people, gathering new groups of people in unexpected ways and proclaiming things they hadn't heard before. See, the reality is that God, the divine, energy, however you phrase it, is so much bigger than any of us can ever put words around or conceive of. So might it be possible that there's lots of exciting ways to meet God? A friend of mine took this picture and she told me a story about Easter morning where she went to this amazing sunrise service with production and music and all of these things. But she wandered off to this quiet place and she felt God powerfully here. My husband says he finds God on the golf course. And I think he can, okay? I think you can find God on the golf course. I think the divine is at work on the golf course. But my question always is, are you looking? In those places, are you looking? Because God can be as close as your breath, and as vast as the universe, and in our minds, and in our spirits, and in our churches, and on our beaches, and all of the other places if we're open to the experience. Because the other thing these nuns are saying, they're reporting increased experiences of spiritual peace, increased experiences of awe and wonder. So this is your invitation. This is your invitation to not neglect your spiritual self, to nurture your spiritual self. And whether you're finding it in a church building or some other unique place like many have for millions of years, up on the mountaintop having that experience, or in the building, or any of the other places where you can connect with each other and with the divine in meaningful ways. Thank you.